Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Transcend, the Thinking Christian talk show where we are unlocking truth, transcending lives. This episode, I'm so happy to have my beautiful wife, Miss Sanishi Bryson-Brown, and she will be dissecting the topic of healing after a miscarriage. She will be sharing her journey, her experience on this subject matter. Sanishi, baby, boo, sweet pie, how are you?
I'm doing good.
So good to have you, so good for you to show your support with what your husband is doing, and we are happy to have you. We want to jump straight into it because this topic, I believe, we don't pay a lot of attention to it in church and even outside of church, maybe even as a society on a whole. So I want you to, just share your experience, your journey, and how was, the journey for you on this topic. So, Sanishi, please tell me your journey and desire for kids after you would have got married to, the oddest guy ever, I'm just saying. But tell me, what was your desire after getting married as it relates to children?
I literally gave myself 1 year to enjoy my husband, and then after that year,
Just 1 year?
Just 1 year. That's what I personally wanted. I don't know what you wanted, but that's what I had in mind.
I thought that, for me, it was neither here nor there. I just wanted whatever you wanted. But I thought that, you wanted like 2 year or maybe 3 year. I didn't know that it was like you intended to hit the ground running.
No, hit the ground running would mean honeymoon night. So I didn't want a child the first year of marriage. Everybody, we got married in 2013. Yeah. So I didn't want a child. 2014, my plan was to have a child by 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long after actually getting married did it actually happen? And tell me about your journey on a whole as it relates to getting married, then actually finding out that you're pregnant.
So for me, I gave myself a year, and things didn't happen according to my plan or according to the plan that I thought was right for my life. In retrospect, to be honest, me getting pregnant only took 4 years, but it really felt like forever because my plan
4 years
was 4 years after getting married in 2013.
Like
4 years seem like nothing, but when you desire to have a child, and in my mind,
were you actively trying?
yes, we were actively trying and enjoying the process of actively trying. But in my mind, once I came off birth control, I believed that I would have gotten pregnant soon. That was my thought process. As I said before, when you grow up in church, you're led to believe that once you have sex, pregnancy. So that was my thought. So I thought...
And it didn't work out like that?
No, it didn't work out like that. But
Were you disappointed though?
Of course. Yeah, because that is your thought process. So you go in believing that this is what was going to happen.
Did the thought ever cross your mind that, I am the problem, or maybe it's my husband is the problem, why it wasn't happening?
Not in the beginning. So in 2015, when we were actively trying to get pregnant, I wasn't blaming neither you nor myself. I remember after trying for an entire year and still seeing my cycle every month, I went to the doctor and I asked my gyna if anything was wrong. And we did a thorough check, and she said, no, it will happen in its own time. And that was after 1 year. And I said, oh, okay. So I guess let's continue to try. But as the months progressed into years, it took a while for me to start believing that this is happening to me and this is my fault. And I started to internalize it. I remember even you got tested at a point as well when I was really starting to get depressed. Every time I saw my cycle, I used to cry. Every night, just start bawling because I really wanted a child and it was not happening. And then my friends who were married were getting pregnant. And,
Wow.
yeah, and I was very happy for them, but I wanted a
Must
child.
have been really frustrating.
Yes,
to see
it was frustrating, and I really wanted a child for myself, and I guess I would have found solace in the doctor telling me that something was wrong. I would have felt better in knowing that something was wrong.
What?
Yes.
So you're saying you would have felt better hearing, that, hey, you have an issue or this is a problem, rather than not hearing that, something is wrong and it's just not happening.
Right, because as I said before, with the society that we are living in, persons will tend to ask you, so why you not have a child? You want to give them a reason. You can't say, I don't know. But really and truly, that's the answer. You really don't know. Yeah, so you don't know. But if there was a reason, because when persons come to you asking you, so when you're going to give the minister a child, you want to be able to say, boy, say it's a hormonal imbalance, or you want to be able to say I have fibroids. It sounds bad saying it no, but if I were to be honest with you, I would have preferred to have a solid reason to tell them than just I don't know.
Which brings me to my next point. Like, what was the support system like at church? I know you're a church baby. You grew up in church. What was the support system like at church?
I did have a good support system,
Yeah.
but that was mainly from family. I did not tell any one of my very close friends the torment that I was going through every month when
Sleepless nights,
yes,
crying.
sleepless nights, crying on your shoulder, not allowing.
Guys, my shoulder, it was wet.
Yes.
Like it was wet.
Yeah.
But again, I really hope I'm not digging too deep. But tell us, like, share with our Transcend family, what were some of the things that would have been said to you that would have made you feel, even more frustrated?
Mm-hmm. So, I was already feeling guilty as the months progressed, and me feeling inadequate now came from people who were around me expecting me to have a child or to see a baby bump. So at some points there were women. I remember after church service, you were playing with some kids, and a group of women came over to me and said, why you don't give the minister a baby? It's the same love kids. You need to give him a child. And then somebody in the group of ladies say, it's true, she's a, I don't remember the term that she used.
Like an educated woman or a working professional, like career woman.
Yes, she said, it's because you're a career girl, that's why you don't want to give the minister a baby. And I remember this was in the midst of me being so down on myself every month, not being able to produce a child, and then I'm at church and somebody is going to tell me that it's because I am a career girl why I'm not giving you a child, as if to say that I am the one preventing you from getting the joy of having a child. And that wasn't the case.
And I remember like that car ride home, you just cried, all the way
Yeah,
home.
that's the thing. So even when the lady said that to me, I'm not one to speak up and correct the person. I prefer to be in the comfort of somebody that I love and trust to fully express myself. So when she said that, I just smiled and I didn't answer. And then when I got in the car with you, that's when I break down. Yeah. I really don't like showing emotions in public.
Alright, so Sanishi, talk to us about finding out now that you're now pregnant. What was that like, and all of that?
Immediately before I got pregnant, before I even realized that I got pregnant, I went to the doctor. And before I went to the doctor, I remember I realized that probably this was something that I had to make peace with. Probably I really never ever going to get a child.
So you gave up on, you gave up?
Yes, I did, because
So I was just there trying, and you gave up?
Yes.
No, it's the first time actually hearing this.
Yes.
Like I was working, and she gave up.
Yes, I was enjoying the process. But for me, yes, I did, because I thought that in order for me to be happy with this current state that I am in, it was torment crying every month, and I didn't want to live like that. So
you're saying secretly, like in your mind, you just let it go and you gave up?
Yeah. I don't know if it was giving up or just saying, or surrendering to God and to the process, whatever the process was, and just saying, God, all right, so if it's this you have for me, all right, then I make peace with it. I'm okay with it. Maybe I will not have a child. Maybe I will not be able to physically birth a child. But whatever it is, God, I give it over.
You're saying you brought yourself to that point?
I brought myself to that point. So to be honest, I don't know if I gave up or I just surrendered. I gave up something. I gave up the thought of me having a child. But at that point.
But could it be a case where it's not that you gave up on like having a child, but you actually just surrender to God's will, whatever that was?
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I gave up or I surrendered, but it is a very thin line between the two. It depends on the emotional state that you are in. It depends on your level of faith at the time. It could have been that I gave up on a Monday, but by Tuesday I have faith and I surrendered. And I remember I went to my very, very good friend. She's one of my mentors even now. As I went to her one night, I was visiting my home church in Helshaw, and I spoke to her because I grew up in church knowing that she had problems with fertility. And I went to her and I said to her, how did you manage being a wife and struggling with giving birth, being able to be pregnant, carrying a child and things like that? And she said, you know what? It was delayed but not denied. That's the word that she gave me, and that's the word that I accepted. And I went to the doctor soon after, and I remember the doctor telling me that I should do a pregnancy test. And I remember you saying to the doctor, why?
Yeah.
I remember
that.
Why?
No, because like my thing was, for our viewers, the Transcend family, my thing was, my wife is on an emotional roller coaster every month when her cycle comes around. And because she's constantly crying, for the doctor to now administer, because we didn't go to the doctor's office for a pregnancy test. My wife was having issues within her body, and we did not suspect that she was pregnant. That was far from our minds.
Far.
And for the doctor to say that, hey, we're gonna do a pregnancy test, for me that was like, no, doctor, don't do that, because like
you knew the state that
I knew the state that she was in, and if it came back negative, like I'm the one that's gonna have to deal with the crying and all of that. So that was my thing though. So you're in the doctor's office.
Yeah, and throughout the process, I've taken so many pregnancy tests, month after month. And funny enough, sometimes, as in, as women, sometimes your cycle comes late, or it is extended by a couple of days. During those couple of days, in my mind, I am pregnant. So, yeah, things like that happen to the body. And, as women, sometimes your tummy, it gets big for whatever reason.
Bloated?
Yes, bloating, and sometimes some other things. A woman's body goes through so many seasons. So, in my weeks of bloating, in my mind, I'm pregnant, but the reality is I'm not. So it was always a roller coaster. So when the doctor told me to do a pregnancy test, and I remember you're there thinking, why? why is she doing a pregnancy test? And then the doctor came back to say, well, Mrs. Brown, you know, you're pregnant. I remember the first thing you said was, hallelujah! Jesus!
Nah, I'm sure maybe it wasn't like that.
Ended up on the floor.
That it wasn't like
you
that.
ended up on the floor. You ended up on the floor, and I remember
on the floor.
Yes. You were kneeling on
like,
the floor.
I was like
and
the
your
coolest.
hands were raised.
I was like the coolest guy in worship. Like I was like cool. I was
and
like,
I remember the doctor going over you, and she was crying just to see how emotional you got over hearing that your wife was
okay,
pregnant.
too much information.
I remember, and the doctor was just holding on to his shoulder. You don't think that it was an altar call service. The doctor was just holding on to his shoulder. Yes, holding on to his shoulder, and then the doctor was just consoling him like, yes, congratulations, Mr. Brown. Yeah, and that doctor was with us from
day
very
one.
beginning. Yes, because she was the doctor I went to for the checkup to find out if something was really wrong. Yeah. So she was with me throughout all of the journey, the ups and the downs, and she was the one who originally told me that it was going to be in its own time, but I didn't want to accept that because exactly what is time?
Yeah.
If you have a plan for your life, and I was back then a black and white person, so I preferred things to fall in order. I always wanted things to be a routine. I always wanted things to be in line.
So now after 4 years of waiting, you're finally pregnant and you went through...
4 years sounds so short.
I know, but it felt like an eternity. Yeah, I know. So like after 4 years of waiting, it finally happened, and we have our little girl now. So she, you went through pregnancy successfully, and Savvy, our firstborn, she came, and we are over the moon. We are excited. And in our mind, because of what people would say, that the first one is always the hardest to come, so the second one won't be an issue, or you won't have a problem. Talk to us now about your journey with the second pregnancy, getting pregnant again.
So Savvy was 2017.
Yeah.
And my second pregnancy was 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
basically
was
2 years. Yeah.
That was planned, and that wasn't a hard process to get pregnant again the second time.
Yeah.
I was still a planner. I still wanted things to go according to how I wanted it to go. So I gave myself that amount of time. And at the time, we were doing a big transition into a new country. So that time was good to wait until 2019. Yes, so I got pregnant in 2019.
So you're saying that this second pregnancy was basically a breeze. You plan it and it happened.
And it happened. Yeah.
So the second pregnancy, you're now pregnant. What was that like, and was everything okay, and at what point in time did you suspect that you had issues? Did you even have issues in the second one?
The second pregnancy was very good. Yeah, it went smooth. Everything was happening how it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
We went to the doctors. Everything was just going well.
Your regular
checkups, everything was flowing well. It was actually when we went to get find out the gender.
Yeah. That was how much months into the second pregnancy?
A little over 3 months.
So 3 months into the second pregnancy, we went to find out the gender of the baby. What took place?
Alright, so before we even reached there, I was at work on a Friday, and one of my co-workers, she came to me. She knew that I was pregnant. By that time I was showing. I was in the end of my first trimester. So the pregnancy, I was getting bigger, and everybody in the office knew. And she came to me, and she said, I'm pregnant. So I looked at her and I said, wow, that's good. And then she said, but I'm going to get an abortion tomorrow. Yeah, but she was pregnant. She just found out during the week.
You're pregnant and your coworker is telling you that?
she's pregnant,
Yeah.
and she just found out during the week, and she's now telling me that she's going to do an abortion on the Saturday.
Yeah.
So I was so shocked because nobody ever. I don't know if that's something that you tell somebody,
Yeah.
but she told me, and I remember I was just sitting at my desk looking at her, and I was just shocked, and I said, "No, don't do that." And she was saying why, and then she was explaining to me her situation and the reasons. She was just going through the reasons why she knows she's not going to keep the baby.
Yeah.
I remember telling her that the reason that she's giving me, they are all temporary, and those things can change for the better in no time. So I was just explaining to her that by next week all of her problems today can change, and she don't want to live with such a, she's planning on making a permanent decision based on some temporary things happening in her life. So I was telling her, no, you don't do that. This is your blessing. You don't even know that if this child that you're currently carrying can be the one that makes you so proud in the future. Keep your blessing.
Did she keep it?
She came to work on Monday, and I went to her and I said, "You're still pregnant?" And she said, "Yes, she's keeping the baby." So I remember when you picked me up from work, I was just saying, "Babe, I ministered to a girl at work today." Remember? I was telling you. And I spoke into her and I poured into her, and God is good and she keep the child. And I remember I was just telling you, and I was so happy that she keep the baby and whatever. And then by Wednesday or Thursday of that week, I am at the doctor doing a regular checkup to find out if I'm having a boy or a girl. Remember, everybody, when you're dealing with Lennox Brown, Lennox is a dreamer. So Lennox already knows the name of this child. Lennox already knows the gender. He's planned that in his head. Lennox already pre-plans how he's going to dress that child to go to church, probably which school that child is going to go to. So Lennox is a dreamer, so he speaks these things over the baby and all of that. So in our heads, we are planning for this baby.
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor, and I remember the doctor was fidgeting. It was 2019, and you were outside, and I was in there, but the doctor, she wasn't behaving as how she normally behaved, and she was just quiet and looking at me, and then she went outside, came back in, did something with the machine, and was now checking all over my tummy, and I was just there wondering what's going on. And then she went outside again, and she came back in with another doctor who was behaving like she's there to get a second opinion. And then she said, "I'm going to call your husband." So I said, "Okay." Obviously they find something wrong, but I was wondering, what is wrong, you know? And then they called you in, and then they explained. The doctor said that there is no heartbeat. So I was there. I didn't know what to say. So I remember the only thing I said was, "So what that mean?" And she was saying, "There is no heartbeat." And I still was saying,
"Man, every time
so what that mean?"
Every time I think about it, like it brings forgive me, I'm tearing up now, but it's just so emotional remembering everything that took place. But continue, don't mind me.
So she all she kept saying, she didn't say that your baby is dead, or she didn't use any language like that. All she kept saying was, "There's no heartbeat." But for me, in that state of I guess I was so shocked, I could not bring myself to believe that the baby was dead. I needed to hear her say it in a factual way, but she wasn't saying that. She was just saying, "There is no heartbeat." And I remember her telling you that you have to, based on what she's seeing, the fetus has been inside me for quite some time.
Basically, the baby died for quite some time.
Yes, but I didn't know, nor did my body expel it. So it was in me, and it almost was at the brink of becoming an infection to me.
Yeah, basically poisoning your body.
Yes, but I wouldn't know that, because in my mind, I have a big tummy, and I'm pregnant.
So, you're now hit with the devastating news that your baby would have died. And all this time you were even encouraging somebody not to terminate their pregnancy, not knowing that you're
At the time I was carrying a dead baby.
a dead baby. Wow. Wow. So it's really I thought that you would be the emotional one over this, but you know it's tough actually just reliving this. But talk to us now after getting that news. Like what was the course of events after?
Immediately after getting the news, I remembered the doctor encouraging you to carry me to an ER, the emergency room, right now. When I got outside, I said, "Take me home." And you said, "No, but the doctor said that we have to go to the..." And I said, "No, take me home." And then once we got into the car, or no, it was probably when we were outside, immediately outside of the building, I started to cry.
To be honest, Transcenders, I've never heard my wife cry like that. Like that was like the first time. Even living through the loss of her grandmother that was dear to her, I never heard her cry like that. It was so frightening to me. So
yeah, it wasn't regular tears. Those tears come from, or the sound that I even made when I was crying, that came from somewhere deep.
Yeah. So I took you home.
Yes.
At what point did you actually got to the emergency room?
You took me home, and I did not want to go to the emergency room, even after hearing the bad news.
Because at this time you're holding on to faith that the baby will somehow miraculously...
No, I wasn't holding on to no faith. I got the message, but I just did not want to deal with anybody.
Yeah.
I just wanted to close away from everything and everybody and be by myself.
But this was now becoming a hazard to your health.
Right, but I didn't care about any of that. So what I wanted to do was just close off from the world. Literally at that moment, I got the bad news and I just wanted to shut down and shut off. But the situation wasn't giving me that privilege. So you were the one who literally had to lift me up, to carry me. I could walk, but you were the one who had to lift me up the stairs to carry me outside to go into the car. And even when you were doing that, I was telling you, "No, I don't want to go." And you're saying, "Sunny, stop it and come."
Alright, so you're now at the hospital. Talk to us about that experience. What was that like?
That was scary for me. I didn't know what to expect.
You were still crying though?
Yes, still crying. The crying was intermittent. It wasn't straight because at the time, I believe we called some church people for support, and they were there, and I have a problem with crying in front of people. So, so even though I wanted to cry, I wasn't crying, and they were asking me questions and consoling me, and I was talking to them and stuff, and that was good support, and I really appreciated it. And when we came to Canada, we never came here to family. We came here by ourselves.
By yourself?
Yes.
Nobody?
Yeah, so when we came here, it's not like I had my mother and my father to cry on, or they weren't on their way rushing to the hospital, So even that's the support that I would have wanted. Immediate family members who know me, but that's not the support that I had. My support came from my church family at the time. Yeah.
So did you do a surgery immediately to
no, and in retrospect, that should have been what was done. They gave me some medication to take while I was at home. So you would insert this into your body, and the aim was for it to break down the tissues.
Yeah, basically break down the fetus.
Yeah, and it would then be expelled. That did not happen over a course of a couple of days. Now, mind you, this pill was it was so painful. The process was painful, which the doctor told me that that was going to be the case, but I've never experienced anything like this before in my life. It was horrible. Just the pain, it was awful, and it was constant over a period of like 5 days. And she said that at the end of the 5 days, once the process is finished, everything would have been expelled.
What was your state of mind during all of this? Like, you know, what was your faith like? Was it shaken? Were you still like, you know, Lord, I'm trusting you?
I remember I felt like I get a big box from God.
For our North American viewers, that's like a slap.
I got a big slap in the face. Yeah, because it was something that I was not expecting, and my mind at the time, or my thought process was, still A plus B must equal to C. I'm doing all I need to do. I'm a good girl. I participate in church. That was my thought process. So because
why is this happening to me?
Why is this happening to me, and I'm not doing anything bad? I've grown now from that thought, but that was my thought process at the time.
So were you able to pray, like talk to God?
No man, no talking to God or praying. I was upset, I was angry, I argued with him. And
you argued with God?
Yes, I did. I was angry, and I told him how angry I was. I remember when I was in the doctor's office with you, and you said to me, Sonny, in the good times or in the bad times, we have to pray. We have to worship, and we have to pray. And you held my hands and you said to me, Sonny, I can't pray. I better you pray, because you were crying at the time. And I say, all right then. This is me on the bed in the hospital gown and everything. And you say, Sonny, you pray, because I can't pray right now. And I said, okay. And I said to you, God, you said in the good times and in the bad times, we must tell you thanks. So thanks.
That's a pretty dry prayer.
That's exactly what you said.
I remember that.
So I said in the good times or in the bad times, they said we must tell you thanks. So thanks. It was sarcastic, and it was it came from a place of hurt. So that is how it was expressed. So it was very dry. And that's exactly what you said. You couldn't believe it. That's what I said. And with the emotion, all of the anger that came behind it, you open your eyes and you say, Sonny, what kind of dry prayer that is? But that was how I was feeling. So when I was going through it, it was very rough. I remember being alone and just crying.
Because at that point, I still had to go to work.
I still had to be wife. I still had to be mother. I took only, I think it was just 5 days off work, and then I had to go back to work. So I still had all of my responsibilities. So it was a very hard time, and I just couldn't bring myself to understand, why is the God that I love, why is the God that says he loves me really doing this to me? I could not understand, and a lot of the times when I was at home by myself, I was screaming at him. I remember I felt a presence in the bathroom because
you screamed at God?
Yes, I did, because I was angry, and that was how I was feeling. And I felt a presence come into the bathroom, and I knew it was God. And I remember hearing a voice saying that everything is going to be all right, and I said, I don't want to hear anything that you have to say.
You told God that?
Yes, man, because I was angry. I cannot pretend as if I handled the situation well, because I did not. This was how I genuinely felt. And you know what? God is not afraid of our emotions. As a matter of fact, he wants our genuine self.
Can I just highlight that to all our viewers? God is not afraid of our emotions. That's a word. That's a powerful word right there.
Yeah, he's not. And at the time, I was hurt, and I wasn't hurt by anybody else in my mind. He was the one who hurt me because he's the one that is in charge of my life. He's allowing this to happen to me. That was how I was reasoning it out. It was a very painful process, and I was very angry with God, very, very angry. When he came into the bathroom to tell me that everything was going to be all right, I tell him I don't want to hear nothing. I literally shouted, I do not want to hear what you have to say. It was as if I was standing and talking to God right here, and he came into the bathroom, and I said, I don't want to hear anything that you have to tell me.
But even though I'm here laughing, though it is just it's just a real lived experience where it builds your faith. It takes you from one place to another. It basically transcends you.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point now, were you experiencing any form of like trauma? Did you return to your daily routine without any problems or any? Because I remember at one point in time you shared with me that you were even afraid just to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're afraid of if you get up from off the toilet seat, what would be there.
Yes, because of my experience. Now the medication, the pill that they gave me, the one that I had to insert in my body, they said that it would break down tissues, but
it didn't.
It did not, and they gave me more than what I should have gotten because they wanted it to work that particular way. So I would just get, I don't know the right word to use, but I would just see a lot of blood.
Whenever you go to the
every
washroom.
time I go to and it wasn't just liquefied, it was just clots, and it was painful. So every time I go to the bathroom, that is what I'm seeing, and I know that is as a result of tissues breaking down because of the child that I'm now losing. So losing the child was one thing.
But seeing it, witnessing it.
Not just that, but it was a process. It wasn't just a one-time thing of going to the hospital, they performing a D&C and taking out all the tissues all at once. It was a 3-week process of continuously going to the bathroom, bleeding, and going through a painful process for 3 whole weeks instead of just a one-time procedure and getting everything out. I had to go through a very hard, painful process for so many days, a very long time.
What important though, you said that didn't work, so you still had to go back to the doctor and get a surgery.
I still had to go to the doctor and do the surgery to remove everything. Because
so now you're living the loss of that child, like
so many times. Every time I go to the bathroom, I saw pieces of, in my mind, I'm thinking this is a piece of my baby. And I remember at one point, I even when I was in the bathroom and I see what was happening in the toilet, I said, God, you are make me a flush my child, I want you to remember that. You are make me a flush my child. Because I was angry, and this is me being honest. I said, God, you are doing this to me. You see this? This is what I wanted, and you doing this. And I remember I said, God, I'm my child, you do this. I was just so bitter. I was so bitter. But for me personally, for quite some time, months after, when I go to the bathroom, as you say, sometimes I'll just be in a bathroom at work and just start crying. Just to hear a toilet flushing, it just bring back my mind back to that place of what I went through for 3 whole weeks non-stop. So to hear the toilet flush, it remind me, this is just how your brain works. It just makes connections, and sometimes it forms its strongest connection to trauma that has happened in your life. So for me, that was the connection that was forming in my mind, the toilet and hearing it and knowing what I associated going to the bathroom with for a traumatic period in my life, of seeing just blood and pain. That was just simple thing as going to the bathroom used to make me shake, used to make me cry. And
so the trauma was real.
Yeah, and we all know as human beings, we go to the bathroom so often.
Yeah.
So can you just imagine how hard life was for me at the time, for every time that I get up to use the bathroom, or the thought of going to use the bathroom just would make me shake and cry and all of these things. And I don't know if you, did you know all of this?
Like, not in details.
Yeah, because
Not in details.
also at the time, I knew that you were experiencing the same amount of loss, but on a different level.
Yeah.
You were not the one carrying the child, but you had so many dreams that you had expressed to me at the time. I felt as if I didn't want to burden you with the extra torment that I was going through.
And which was ironic, because you didn't want to burden me, and I didn't want to burden you. And there would be so many times that I would just be at work and I just broke down because of what you were going through, and also just to, I already had a name for my baby. I already had plans for my baby, things that we were gonna do together. So it's I must say this transcenders. Losing a child, no matter what stage you lose a child, especially something like a miscarriage, you mourn as if it was somebody that was here already, somebody that you knew already. The mourning process, all I can say, it's real. It was real. So you went through what you went through for 3 weeks, and on top of that you still had to do a surgery.
Yeah, and between that it's not like I spent 3 weeks at home. I went back to work soon after. I spent only probably 5 days at home, and I was in pain at work, but I still had to work. And it was a hard process. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, babe, that you had to go through that, but his ways
are not our ways. Yeah.
Exactly. Critical question that I want to get to though. What support worked for you, and what other would you suggest to women that that would have faced that type of situation?
The support that worked for me, I had to really do some introspection. I knew the path that I was going down in my mind wasn't a healthy one. I was not myself anymore, and I could feel myself going further and further and further away spiritually from God, because I was so bitter and angry towards God that I knew I was pulling away from Him. I remember even still going, nobody knew, but I was still going to church. Nothing changed physically with me. I was still present in church, but my mind was not there. I remembered even being in church after the miscarriage, and when you're a part of a Pentecostal apostolic church, the pastor always say, let us stand and worship the Lord. And I was still bitter, and the pastor repeated it a couple of times. I don't know if he saw me sitting and really wanted me to stand. So I said to myself, me not stand up. So
what?
Yeah.
The wife of a minister?
Because when God did to me, I just could not bring myself around.
But it's real though, because I, to that point, I remember in the same time all of this took place, I got invited to Florida to preach. And I reluctantly accepted the invitation, but I remember when I went, I was just like a shell of myself because of what you were going through, what we were going through. It's almost as if, how do you tell people that God is real and God is faithful when you feel like God betrayed your trust?
It's a very hard place to be in. It's a hard place to be in. And to be honest, it took a very long time. I realized where I was, and not having anybody to, or probably not I can't say not wanting to speak to anybody else, and I didn't even want to speak to Jesus. I didn't want to speak to Him. But when I was alone, by myself, with my own thoughts, I remember saying to God, alright, I just you alone I have around me right now. What you have to say to me now? I remember saying to him, how you say you love me? And my father in a Jamaica would have never make something like this happen to me. And you say you are my heavenly father and you want make this happen to me? How you explain that love? You know, those are the type of conversations that I was having with him. As I said, this is after I calmed down and wanted to talk. The only person I was talking to was God and his presence that I felt. I can't explain it. Those of you who have had that experience, you know what I'm talking about. But that is the experience that I had. It was very real. I don't know how to put it into words, but it was real.
And these were some of the things that would have helped you to overcome.
The overcoming process wasn't a one-time thing, and it wasn't just talking out loud. It was also knowing in myself that I needed to get resources that would work for me. So I realized that there was a deficit. I realized the path I was going down. I realized that I was no longer myself. A couple months after the whole process, so we lost the child October 2020, and by I think February of 2020, no, we lost the child in October 2019. So by February of 2020, I realized that I was pregnant again with the third child.
This was our third pregnancy.
Right. And during that time, it was the pandemic. So, you know, everybody is socially distanced. I was wearing my glasses. I was wearing my mask. You can't tell if I was crying or not. You know, so I was able to operate in my shell. I was able to operate in my own world. Being masked off and separated, feet away from people, that situation facilitated my depression. It facilitated me wanting to withdraw from people.
Even though you were now pregnant for the third time, and everything seems to be going well with this pregnancy, you were still in that
I was scared.
place of hurt.
Yes, it wasn't hurt anymore. It is now scared.
You were scared, like
yes,
scared of,
because the same thing can happen again.
Yeah, but what was the deciding factor that, you know, helped you to ultimately overcome that hurt?
It took a process. So what I was listening to a sermon from T.D. Jakes, and I don't remember what exactly the topic was, but he said that we can actually train our minds to think differently. And after some introspection, I realized that that's exactly what I needed to do. I desperately needed my thought process to change towards myself and towards how I was feeling as a Christian. So this was after the bitterness. I realized that something needed to be done. I believe in living an abundant life, and how I was feeling, I knew I wasn't operating in any abundance. I remember my manager, I don't know if she was a Christian or not, she came to me and she said, she knew that I lost the baby, and she said, Sanishi, do you realize that 2020 is a wonderful year for you? So I said, really? And she said, yes. You have a new house, you have a new car, you're working in a new job, and now you have a new baby on the way. So I said, okay. You know, because even though these things were happening, these four things that are so good on their own,
you weren't able to enjoy them.
No, I'm not enjoying none of it, because I had my mind fixed on the past. I had my mind was so connected to the trauma that I was not able to live in the present and accept all the many good things that were happening.
So right there, a transcend word. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the past. Transcend us.
So I repeated these 10 things to myself. I still keep them on my phone. It says, I believe I am precious to God and He will take care of me. Matthew 6 verse 25. I believe God has filled my life with good things. I can trust Him to satisfy me. Psalm 103 verses 1 to 5. I believe I am not destined for stumbling or destruction. I have a noble purpose and a hope. That's 1 Peter 2 verse 8 and 9. I believe I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. I believe I am equipped for every good deed and lavished with every grace. Second Corinthians 9 verse 8. I believe the Lord is my shepherd. I lack no good thing. Psalm 23. I believe the Lord is my rock and my refuge. He will be my safe place for me today. Psalm 18 verse 1. I believe the Lord is my light. As dark as the world may seem, I do not have to walk in darkness. That's Psalm 27 verse 1. I believe the Lord is right here with me, an ever-present help in time of need. That's Psalm 46 verse 1. And the last one says, I believe the Lord is coming. He will save me, so I do not need to be anxious or afraid. That's Isaiah 35 verse 4.
What would you suggest to a woman that is today, right now, passing through, this hurt, this world of hurt, and needs hope to get into tomorrow? What would you suggest to them?
You need to speak to someone. Don't be locked up in your depression. Don't be locked away in your negative thoughts. What the devil loves to have you in that position. He loves to have you caged up in your fear. He loves to have you paralyzed by your thoughts. At the end of the day, if we serve God and we say that He is in control of our lives, even when something bad is happening, we still have to trust and believe that God is still in control. With God, all things are possible. You don't have to live in pain. You don't have to, and when I say pain, I'm not talking about the physical. You don't have to be in pain. You don't have to be there.
Sanishi, thank you so much for being on this platform, for sharing your story, your Transcend story, your journey. Thank you, sweetie. I love you.
Thank you for having me.
And let me say this publicly, sweetie. Thank you for our beautiful children. Thank you for what you went through for our family. I love you and I appreciate you, baby girl.
Thank you for being a part of the process.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. And there you have it. Another Transcend. Unlocking truth, transcending lies. We thank you for joining us and we look forward for you to stay with us on this Transcend journey. Join us again next time as we will be discussing and dissecting another topic, real issues for real people. Thank you. See you next time. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time on Transcend.